Transformational speaker and life coach, and after the sudden death of her mother and niece, Marissa was awakened by the spirit of a murder victim, which led her to working with law enforcement agencies in California. Marissa sees, hears, and speaks with spirits for thousands of people across the world. She is known for her accurate, validating information from spirits and her down-to-earth sense of humor. Here she is on Coast to Coast this hour, Marissa Ryan. Marissa, how are you?
I'm great, George. How are you?
Great. And you, by the way, you did capture our attention when we were out there. You were basically being interviewed, didn't even know it, did you? Well, maybe you did know it. You're a psychic.
You know what? I had a blast at the conference. It was a lot of fun.
Good people. Now, tell me a little bit about your background.
Well, my background, I've done a lot of different things. I was in sales for 10 years. I've been did a little bit of law enforcement, went through the police academy, and married with 3 kids, and really have mostly a sales and customer service background, and didn't really have any paranormal experiences as a child growing up at all. I mean, the only thing I can remember is my dad and I sitting out on our backyard as a kid, looking for UFOs to come down and take us for a ride, but otherwise I never talked to spirits or saw spirits or anything.
Would you say that your expertise primarily is dealing with the spirit world?
Pretty much. Dealing with the spirit world, absolutely. And I've not done this my whole life. It just was, I would say, a midlife crisis awakening, and happened around 35 years old, and about 8 years ago, and it just happened. And it's been a great ride. I'm having a blast. It's a lot of fun.
Tell us the incredible story of how you began to start working with law enforcement.
Well, what happened was, like I had said, my mother and my niece died tragically 2 days apart. And it really got me wondering about, life and death, and is there life after death? So I started reading some books, and I started talking to my mother in the car, but I really didn't know if I was making it up or not. I just was kind of doing it. And then all of a sudden, a couple of years went by, we got busy with life, and one day, and I had heard this show on a radio. Actually, I ended up being on the show later. It was kind of funny. And there were mediums, and I was thinking to myself, we never knew. My niece was 21. She died of unknown causes in her sleep, and I really wanted to talk to her and find out, what happened. So I started praying for this. I wanted to be able to talk to the dead. And next thing I know, I was on my computer, and I was reading this article this one night about this girl that was murdered, and it was weird because she had lived in the area that I lived in, Orange County, and her body was found out where I now live, which was about 45 miles away, and I really had never heard about it, but when I turned my computer off and I turned around, she was standing in front of me.
Marissa, I want to ask you a few questions that may or may not be down your alley as a psychic medium, but so many things are popping these days with the election and everything else. Do you sense anything there? Do you make predictions when it comes to things like that?
I do lots of predictions, especially at New Year's.
Exactly.
I do lots of New Year's predictions, absolutely. If you're asking me for an election prediction, I have a really hard time with that because I personally have opinions about the election, and when I have a personal involvement, I have a hard time getting myself out of the way.
It taints it a little bit then, right?
It does taint it a little bit. For some reason, but I will say, do you want to know who I think is going to win?
No, I don't care about that.
Okay.
But I would have psychically, if you were able to pick that up. But if you say that your personal feelings will influence that, no need.
Yeah, I pretty much probably believe like a lot of people. I have some real issues with politicians and the whole political arena. I feel that a lot of them have their own agenda, and there are definitely some runners that I'm getting some really bad feelings psychically about, that it's not a good feeling at all.
Earlier this week, we were talking with a representative from a fellow by the name of Billy Meyer, whom you may or may not know. But Billy has, over the years, he lives in Switzerland, he has taken incredible photographs of what purported to be UFOs. I mean, they're absolutely stunning. Fake or real, who really knows? Billy does. But the point is that one of the things he claims he was told by these ETs is that we can expect some major earthquakes along the west, and specifically a huge tsunami in the Pacific Northwest that could hit the Washington area, Oregon. And I'm just wondering if you have any feelings when it comes to, like, climate or earth changes.
I do. When the tsunami hit a couple years ago, I had a really weird feeling about that. I have a feeling that there's going to be something that's going to hit in the Alaska area, but I don't feel like it's going to be really giant. I feel like it's going to be more, like a medium-sized tsunami type.
Okay.
Definitely going to be a lot more earthquakes.
But you don't see a calamity of just worldwide magnitude occurring here?
No, I don't.
Okay. Let's get into the spirits and the communication with the spirits. How often does this happen to you?
Well, I communicate with spirits probably about 6 or 7 times a day.
On your own, or does it just happen?
Well, with clients, I have thousands of clients that I talk to. I can turn it on and off. Thank goodness. It took me a while to get good at that. So I can literally turn on my switch to say, I'll receive, come on in. Occasionally, though, they do sneak in on me in private moments and in my own family, and I'll get, I see a lot of really strange things out driving in my car. I'll see them on the sides of the road. I'll see them holding signs and that kind of stuff.
Well, how do you know they're spirits and not real human beings?
Well,
do they look different, or what?
They don't really look different. I'm sure you're familiar with what a third eye is.
Yes.
And I do see a lot with my third eye. I would say probably 80% and 20% I actually see with my physical eyes. But I usually can tell because I will see them in a full human form, but they will be just an outline, and they're transparent, and I can see through them. That's the difference.
Like the movie Ghost, the character played by Whoopi Goldberg. Did that happen to you, too, where they just bombarded you to a point where you couldn't sleep?
You know what? Absolutely. That movie was done so well. It was really done well. When the murder victim came to me, it was like seeing 99 bottles of beer on the wall. All night long she was bugging me, you've got to call the police, call the police, call the police, and tell them what I'm telling you. She bugged me for 3 days, and then within about 2 weeks she told everyone on the other side that I could hear her and see her, and I had people riding in my car. I was a sales rep. I had people following me into Hallmark stores and going everywhere, wanting to give messages, and it was crazy for a good couple months there.
When you were talking to the police, this has always baffled me, and you probably told them some things that only the victim and the murderer would know. Didn't they look at you a little strangely?
Well, I called them up on the phone, and the first thing I said to them, and it was very hesitantly, was, I have spoken to your murder victim, and I said her name. And they said, oh, really? What did she say? And I said, well, she told me that you haven't found her head yet. And they said, we would like to meet with you as soon as possible.
Sounds like that was not publicized then at the time, right?
It was not in any articles. I mean, nothing. I had said there were her head, her hands, her feet, there were things that they had not discovered. And so when I met them in this parking lot at a shopping center, the very same day, they had a file with my picture and everything, and they were asking me all these questions, and they thought I was the murderer's girlfriend trying to turn them in.
Jeez. So how did you finally convince them that you are who you are?
It took me probably about, I'd say, 2 to 3 months on the case before they really started trusting me. I was doing automatic writing with her, and I would fax them what I was writing, and I had sketched. What really was interesting is within the first 2 weeks, I actually sketched the men that did it, and I faxed it to them. And when the one detective called me up, I mean, he was like, could barely talk, and he was like, you've got this guy down. I mean, they had already knew who they thought it was, and I had just confirmed it, down to acne scars on his face that I had drawn. And that was really when I think they started believing me. And it was a good about 8 months before they came over and brought the whole file with all the pictures and everything. And that's when it just, I mean, the first 6 months, I was just I'm just giving them information. I'm telling them, I've never done this. She rides in the car with me. You know, we drove 15 miles all over the place with her in the car with me, showing them areas that body parts of her were found, and they confirmed it.
Oh, my. Now, did they ever arrest and convict?
I